What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bring you episode number 62 of our Dota On Demand podcast. What is going on, man?
62. 6.79. Those numbers are very close to each other, some would say. If they were really bad at math, they would say that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, or, 7 would be... But, whatever. I would just like to start off by saying I got a nice little upgrade, and I hope you guys are enjoying the improved microphone quality. Got myself a new headset. It's fantastic. I love it. And as soon as certain companies start paying me money, I'll tell you which one I bought.
It rhymes with blazer.
Yes.
Maybe not, though.
But yeah, we have 6.79 to talk about, Jay. I think it's great that last week we actually had a plan for this week. And then the patch hit.
See, that's the problem. Like, the game knows, or at least the Valve does probably. As soon as we actually come up with a game plan, which as they know, as everyone knows, never happens really. That's when they throw a curveball. Like, you know what? No, we're gonna give these guys a patch just to mess with them. And you know what?
Change the meta of Dota 2 and of our podcast.
I don't know which one's more important, but probably about equal. But yeah, also want to give a shout out. Thanks to everyone who's been live tuning into us. Don't usually have a live audience, so even though a lot of you I know are not very familiar, maybe this will help you guys out. Maybe you'll learn something here. Hopefully.
That's the dream. But yeah, so 6.79 hit. Huge patch. A lot of great changes. And I think one of the biggest parts about it is just the fact that it seems like everything changed all across the board, all across the map, really. Every single lane had something change in it, or a change directly related to the functionality of that lane. You look at the off lane where you now have the meetup of the two creep lanes meeting closer to the easier to gank tower. So if you're talking on the dire side, it's your short lane.
The safe
now,
lanes, yeah.
Yeah. Now, meet more in the middle actually on your off lanes. The middle lane, now the bottle is more expensive, and a ton of others. I mean, let's just start off. What lane did you find got most affected by the changes, or what lane change were you maybe caught off guard by?
Oh, that is so hard to say, because honestly, all three lanes got heavily affected. It even doesn't matter what side you're on. As a middle player myself, I definitely noticed some real big changes to that, not only hero-wise, but definitely to the lane as well. The biggest change to that being the flying courier now not being purchasable for 3 minutes. So that's obviously going to play a huge role on the mid-roll. If you're a hero that's not able to access the runes for your battle control really easily, then all of a sudden you can't do the courier. You can't get it back and forth without flying, and you can't get your battle filled up. So like Magnus right away, pretty hurt by that. I mean, there's going to be the heroes just in general. And it's also going to give that advantage, that leg up to the heroes like Quap, like Puck. Anyone that has really high mobility to get access to those runes. So it may even give almost a shift in how the supports have to now roam a little more, which actually is probably going to happen a lot more in this new meta anyways, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. But still, it might impact that a lot. So yeah, I think that was a huge change already.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that the cost of bottle increasing, the fact that the day and nighttime cycle is now slightly different. Instead of being 6 minutes each, it's now 4 minutes each. Means that you can gank and try and take advantage of the lack of vision a lot more. I feel like all of these changes, they really help balance it out, make everything even inside the lanes, and also punish you less for trying to move out. I mean, we got to see in what we were talking about last week, you had the showdown between Alliance and Na'Vi, and you saw how crazy effective Puppy was able to be because he got the runes on Crystal Maiden. It was able to come in the middle lane, gank S4, get first blood a couple times. You're not always going to get that, and especially when you look at our level of play, oh man, we're not going to know exactly like, oh yeah, I'm level 2 right now, we're going to do just enough damage to get this. You're not going to get the coordination maybe between your mid lane and your support to be able to make those choices. So if you do that and mess up before, you're just screwed. You just wasted so much time. Now it just seems like there's maybe a little bit less to get out of your safe lane, which means that your supports are really a lot more free to move out and try and have an effect on that middle lane. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was kind of starting to allude to. But just with all the changes in general, the meta itself, I mean, we definitely have already seen some games played, like you said, and the tri-lanes are still around for sure. They didn't just disappear after this, but they may not be the best use of player resource in the game anymore. It just may not be as efficient. Like you were saying, I don't know how much we've gotten into it yet, but with the neutral camp swap, so the medium pullable neutral camp was swapped with the small camp in the jungles. So now essentially the one you're going to be pulling for your lane is going to die pretty much twice as fast. And even if you get to stack it once or twice, it's still going to go down relatively quickly compared to what it used to be with the medium. So that's already a big change, making it not as easy to pull the lane. Now it's going to be kind of pushed out. Your offlaner is going to be having a better chance, and also with across the board, actually, basically most jungle creeps had an experience bounty reduction. I believe I listed out 4 of them were reduced. So jungle heroes now not going to be as leveled as quickly. Maybe are going to not be as prevalent as they were before.
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing too that's really interesting about just switching those 2 camps and how it interacts with junglers. Of course, Chen doesn't necessarily need to start the easy camp. Enigma doesn't have to start the easy camp, but there are a couple junglers that they really do need to sort of get that little bit at the beginning. They need to kill the easy camp, wait for it to respawn, kill it again. Okay, now I'm level 2. I can maybe try my hand at some of these bigger camps. Not going to be able to really do that if you have a safe lane that's also trying to pull that lane. So you have this little bit more of a conflict now between, can we sort of pull the creeps, stack those up, take an advantage of increasing the bounty in our jungle, and run a jungler. Those are, I think, not going to work as well. And going back to what I was saying earlier, if the stacking isn't as efficient, then, maybe my time as a support's better spent. Maybe I should go rune control. Maybe I should go gank middle. Maybe I should go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, definitely. And another thing that may impact this, there's a big change called the ranged heroes. I'm giving it a name. Ranged heroes now get the same deny experience as melee heroes. They used to get less deny experience. So those supports, generally ranged heroes, right, for the most part, are now going to be getting even more denied experience if that happens against them. Also in the middle lane, melee versus range, that has an influence there. So these ranged heroes now have to be more involved XP-wise to get the level ups. I mean, yeah, there's still plenty of melee supports to go around, so it's not like affecting the whole tri-lane aspect. But it definitely does play a role. The XP AoE also got increased by 100. So making that easier for the offlaners to kind of stay out of harm's way. I mean, 100's not the most obvious or big increase, but still, every little bit helps for these guys.
And the other thing, too, and just talking about that off lane, is where you basically had creeps meeting for the first time in your side lanes was pretty much at a tower, and if you're being that side lane solo, you're close to the enemy tower, and that sucks. You can't step up on top of the creeps, because what if people are out there in the woods waiting for you to walk up to the creep wave, and then you're done already? Right there, you have a death on your head. The fact that it meets the middle now, you actually can sort of step up. You can participate. You might be able to push level 2 and try and at least ensure that you're getting a little bit out of it. Mm-hmm. So I really do like that there are a lot of benefits now for having somebody in that off lane. It's not as dangerous, and they can look to get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think offlaners are going to probably have a better time, or it may even become 2-1-2 again, and we might start losing the offlaner, quote unquote, and make it shift back to the old days that we all remember. If you ever played Warcraft 3 Dota, when you played, it was always 2-1-2 when no one knew what the hell they were doing. But still, it's actually a very reliable and responsible strategy, depending on, of course, what you go. And this also, if it does end up switching to a 2-1-2, that begs the question: are those heroes that were just basically designed for soloing going to start fading away? I'm starting to think Clink's Bounty Hunter. I mean, just like Brood Mother, although she hasn't been around recently, although she might be now. Just those kind of heroes that Clinks, that just did so well by themselves. Are they going to be in the game anymore as often? I should say.
Well, I think the other thing too is you also have the ability to run the 1-2-2, right? The one, of course, classic combo of this is the Shadow Demon Kunkka, and what they were able to do, just sick amounts of damage, be able to set up the torrent in this middle lane. And of course now if you're saying that middle lane's harder, it's easier to be ganked, maybe teams really do want to start looking into defending the middle lane a little bit more. I definitely think that's something they're going to want to do. But the thing I like about this patch and the changes they made so far is that it's working on breaking up this meta that's been so prevalent for a while and running the tri-lanes. The tri-lane has been so effective that people have even abandoned the off-lane because it's not even worth fighting it. So it's nice to see that they're bringing this back, and so that it's more feasible to run other options.
Yeah, and I also find it interesting that it feels like they really tried to slam the meta hard with this, yet I feel like the meta is not that... It hasn't been that sticky. It hasn't been that really concrete. Over the months, you see new heroes coming in, leaving. What happened to Sven? He's been off the face of the earth now. There's just been so many ins and outs that I'm surprised they wanted to go this. And it's not like the whole map is completely, built from scratch here. But it definitely is going to play a large role in strategy. And for right now, teams might be doing pretty much similar strategies to what they've been doing previously, but I think they're going to start discovering that they could do other things that are going to work out a lot better. And that's, I think, in the next month or so, when teams actually have had a chance to apply this new stuff, is when we're really going to see some exciting things come out. And also those hero picks that we definitely never saw before.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking back now to the last patch. I want to say it was Eternal Envy, but I might be wrong. Maybe it was Wagamama who was casting with Toby, and Toby's like, "Oh, hey, what about the new patch you find really cool? What are you looking for?" Trying is I'm gonna try Viper because he got 3 more strength. You're like, just 3 more stats? That's enough to make you want to play Viper? And he goes, "Yeah, I think that actually makes him legit now." And
wow,
da da da. So right at that time, Viper of course wasn't really that big, but now we've actually seen recently that he's getting picked up from time to time. And so I think that's really cool that, we're getting these changes that, of course, people over the next month or whatever are going to have to be trying to learn and to deal with. But there's also the stuff that people are going to be finding out, months from now. How long has Spirit Breaker been awesome? And then all of a sudden, let's support Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna come out of the woodwork, and it's gonna be those teams that are willing to try these new things out. So looking at you, Speed Gaming, looking at you, Navi, looking at you, Alliance, these top dogs that really aren't afraid to experiment. And then, Poseidon, these other teams that actually like to run these interesting strats too. And I wish I could name more Southeast Asian teams, guys. I really do. That's my bad for not doing enough research on that front. But I'm sure there's teams like that do that kind of thing as well over there. Actually, I did watch DK versus IG recently. And they kind of had the same exact strategies before, so that was pretty boring. Well, not boring, but you know what I mean. It wasn't anything groundbreaking yet, but still. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to start really coming out soon, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Another thing that also helps us offlaners, by the way, non-ancient neutrals now split experience with all heroes in AoE instead of just the team that killed them. So if you can be kind of lurking around, you're going to soak up that XP.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And I think that's also nice for aggressive tri-laning if you're trying to shut down a defensive tri-lane. If you can invade, do you want to block the creep pool anymore? Before it's always been if we don't block it, they're pooling, we know where all their squishy heroes are. We know that they're right at that creep camp. We can go over and mess with them. Now it's not only can you do that, but you're going to be able to soak up some of the experience. You're going to be able to hang around the fringes if you want to. It's not going to be such a drain if you're not able to make something happen there.
Exactly. So those are a lot of the big ones. Obviously, another huge thing, and this I was trying to figure out a way I wanted to describe this patch for a fancy title for our podcast episode or something. Of course, I still don't have it yet because I'm not that witty. Mm-hmm. I'm usually witty right after the episode, but that's okay. But the fact that this all, when it's culminated together, and you'll probably see this as we evaluate more of it, it seems like IceFrog, or the development team in general, really wanted more action, more aggression, to be kind of an underlying tone for this whole patch. Like you said, we're kind of breaking down the defensive tri-lane. We're trying to make maybe 2-1-2, 2-2-1, making these new lane shifts coming around, taking out the jungle element more or less, so that you can't just have one hero farm the jungle all game and then pop out and start doing things. This also affects pugs, by the way, not just the pro scene. So we have to take an account even slightly for that you're not going to just maybe see Doombringer sit there and come out in 30 minutes with 3 items. Maybe other things will have to happen. So a lot of aggressive changes, and just a couple I want to just note off the top right here. Gold for ending a spree changed from 75 to 600 to 125 to 1,000. So at that last stage of his spree, you get an extra 400 gold for killing a hero.
Well, there's some math involved in that. Yeah.
There's always math involved.
There's
3
always
times
math.
to 10 times. But still, there's going to be more available gold for ending sprees, is the bottom line. Yes, maybe I didn't do correct math all the time, but the point is, yes, there is. Gold income, you and your math. Don't you know we hate math? I don't want to even get into that.
Art major gets it right once.
That doesn't make any sense to anyone. Your gold income is now 1 per 0.6 seconds, up from 1 per 0.8. So I did a little quick math here, and I said in 20 minutes, instead of getting 1,500 gold, you now get 2,000. So that's for everyone across the board. And what I'm also liking about this, all these gold changes that we're going to be getting into, is that supports are going to start getting items. And I think that's an amazing, not nearly as big of items, of course, as your hard carries and your mids, but I feel like they're going to get that extra item that they're always looking for, and I think that could definitely impact the way team fights go.
Yeah, for sure. I think the offlaners too, because of course some of them can just get crushed so much that you can't even really see them get anything out of it. And too, this goes to help sort of what we were talking about, or what I wanted to see more out of the last patch was, what if you have these offlaners that can't retreat into the jungle? What if they can't abandon the lane? Mm-hmm. They have to just sit there and stick it out. Like Tidehunter was in the off lane for a long time. But I mean, what happens if the defensive tri lane is so strong that you can't get up there? You can't get your experience to try and hit level 6 for Ravage. At least now he can get some gold together. He can try and save up for something like his Blink Dagger if he wants to go for a different item. That's slightly more available to him now, and I definitely like that.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think though they took an account how aggressive these teams might be becoming here, and so they made this other change involving buybacks. So now when you buy back, you no longer gain unreliable gold until your normal respawn time finishes. So obviously, if you buy back early in the game, not going to make a difference really. However, late game, when it's about an 80-second or so, death timer, you buy it back right away. Now for that long period of time, you won't be able to gain gold from creeps, neutrals, etc. Until that cooldown finishes.
From time passing, either you don't even get your normal ticks of gold.
Ah, yes. Well, yeah, true. Unreliable gold. Well, no. I feel like unreliable gold.
Pretty sure.
Well, either way, it sounds legit. And then also when buying back, 25% of the remaining respawn time will be added to your next death. So, in a way, you're kind of almost not punished, but in a more or less sense, yeah, if you do buy back and then you die again or something, now you're really on the sidelines, and you're not going to be able to help much at all. But generally, when you're buyback, it's out of desperation and not just nature's prophet doing it whenever he can. So, it's not going to be that big a deal. You're just trying to help your team out. But these obviously
for the aggressing team, like the one that's able to force a buyback, is obviously now more important. Like if you give that pick off and you're able to try and pressure the enemy base enough to get them to feel so afraid that they have to bypass getting gold for a while. I mean, I think that's pretty big, and I definitely look forward to that one. And the other one for me that I thought was huge in trying to push the aggression is the change to smoke, and that the only thing that dispels smoke now are enemy heroes and towers. So you can't see people through wards now, through sentry wards. They are completely invisible until they are revealed by the effect coming off, and that is huge. I think now you can actually make sure that investment won't get scouted out, that you're not going to all come together again. You're not going to come together and then waste your time running around because the enemy team's going to see you. You're sort of, in a way, rewarded for trying to do that because it's got a higher probability of working.
Hmm. No, definitely. Definitely, and this once again adds to the nice aggression meta that we're coming out with here. Making smokes that much more effective is going to be obviously very helpful. Um, I was also going to say another element that kind of rolls the dice, if you will. Roshan will now respawn at a random time between 8 and 11 minutes after death. So instead of that guaranteed 10 minutes, which was so easy to do the math for. Yeah, I even had a little social Hot Wheel thing that I just did current time, and anyone can just open up the chat and say, all right, it's almost 10 minutes, we can go back into the pit. People are still going to be timing it, but now you have to be ready at that 8-minute mark, possibly. You're going to have to keep wards, have to keep tabs, and see when it comes up. If you're like, of course, this is if your team is like on the verge of needing that Roshan right when it spawns or whatever. But still, it does play a role. And as well, to add to that, when the Aegis expires unused, it heals the hero fully over 5 seconds. So, that change isn't such a big deal, obviously, and
It's neat.
does dispel on damage from players' buildings, so you can't just get it used in the fight. But yeah, I guess it's at least it kind of did a little bit for you instead of just literally collecting dust in your inventory and then vanishing.
Yeah, the thing that I like most about the Roshan timer change is, I think, before, even when you get into the mid to high skill bracket, is like you were saying, you write down the time, everybody knows, okay, well, we're behind, let's farm for 8 minutes, and then we'll smoke gank, and then if we can't get anything, then we'll poise to defend Roshan, and then however the fight goes determines your next 10 minutes. This way, you have to actually pay attention, you have to be more aware of it. It's going to change the timing of how much time you have to safely farm. You're going to have to spend more time looking around for the enemy team, making sure that they're not trying to move in on Roshan. And here's the other thing, too. If people can't be revealed by sentry wards and smoke, smoking into the Roshan pit is now so much easier to do. And the cool thing about this, I think, is it also increases the value of heroes that have additional means of sight, either through pets or your Sunstrike, that sort of thing, to be able to reveal what's going on. And we need to get vision on this pit. One of the heroes that this actually kind of is nice for is the Beastmaster, who had one of his changes to Call the Wild. Now has it 2 separate buttons. He can summon the boar. He can also summon the bird. And that bird now is so much more important. Not that it wasn't before, but okay, we need to know exactly when Roshan comes up.
Yeah, exactly. Vision things have all now slightly gained a buff. And we might as well speak about wards in general, since it kind of just is getting raked into now. Wards will now actually have a bounty on them. You'll be getting gold, and this is once again helping that support case that we were getting into. Now that they are going to deward, of course, they are the normal dewarders. They will get rewarded for it, and I was going to... I know you guys don't like us dabbling into League of Legends, so I'm not going to go crazy about it, but this is already implemented in League of Legends. It has been for a while. Basically rewarding people for dewarding, if you will, taking away the vision of the enemy instead of only thinking about your own. And I think this is a wonderful idea, rewarding players for basically playing the game better, being on top of it for their team and having more incentive to go over there and try to figure out where they're warding and to stop it.
Yeah, and now that there's a reward for it too, it's sort of also going to play on, well, I don't want to put them in the exact same spots every game, I don't want to just go to the generic where the eyeball is drawn on the grass, in river.
Let me just pop in and say, it's only Observer Wards, sorry. Not both. So only Observer Wards give the bounty, and it's 50 gold. So Sentry Wards will not reward you. However, you generally don't use a Sentry Ward just for a Sentry Ward, unless... you're trying to stealth against the enemy or something. So it's still going to be a very positive thing. The duration of Observer Wards went up a minute, and the duration of Sentry Ward went up a minute as well, so they're a little bit longer. The price stayed the same, so just more cost efficient. And the Sentry Ward change, no longer, it doesn't give permanent vision around it. So essentially, it's literally just there to deward now. It doesn't give you that real vision around it, but when you place it, for 12 seconds after that, you get 150 area around it. So basically, how it was described to me, you use that to deward, and then that vision goes away. So you put it on a high ground, you get 12 seconds of seeing what's up there, deward whatever's up there, and then move on.
I mean, the other nice thing about that too is it's like you also get rid of you just randomly getting to see somebody run directly over top of your sentry ward. Like it literally, yeah, like you were saying, it's for detecting invis when you have vision of the area from some other means, your hero or a ward or whatever. And I think that's like a neat little change, but it's great. I mean, because I think it's really frustrating when you plop down a sentry ward and it's like I know something's up there, but now I have to like place another ward just to try and get vision of it, or we gotta wait for someone to fly the fancy Beastmaster bird over here so we can see it. Let's get the courier out of the fountain. We need him real quick. So it's nice that they made that change. And the other thing too, I'm just noticing over here as look over. It's kind of small and I guess not related, but the fact that so many of the heroes have had their night vision made standard. Kind of, I think again, just to piggyback on being able to be aggressive at nighttime. The big one too, I think, is Enchantress, who actually had clear vision at night, which I never really had an appreciation for. Had that full 1800 range. It's now 800, so dramatically lower.
Ouch.
It's just kind of nice that that sort of random factor is taken out. There are still some heroes that have night vision, as they probably should. It's just the type of hero they are, but I'll be honest. If you were like name heroes that have night vision, Enchantress was not going to be one of the top ones on the list.
Not really. In fact, though, Mirana having only 800 now makes me sad, because she was originally the Priestess of the Moon, and I figure like a Priestess of the Moon should see better at night. I mean, doesn't that make you feel that way?
She's been around for a while. She's getting old. The presbyopia, she can't see as well at night. You just gotta
get those contacts. Gotta get back on the horse. But
yeah.
There's other changes too. Well, obviously, this is more just our broad, general, big, like, holy crap, this just happened, and we need to tell you guys because we're excited. There's been a million changes. We're not gonna go into all of them because we would be here for 3.5 hours at least, and none of us got time for that. So, well, I do, but I'm not gonna spend it that way. So, and you're not gonna listen to it. Let's be honest. So.
I think if we want to move on, I think probably what's most important to maybe touch on next is just the fact that so many of the almighty heroes, sort of super prevalent meta game heroes, got nerfed at least a little bit. I mean, Abaddon actually winds up losing 1 base armor. Mistcoil self damage is increased. And Aphotic Shield is now dispellable, and Borrowed Time no longer activates while doomed.
Yeah, this isn't nearly as devastating, but then again, he is still relatively fresh to the scene. These, I feel like, are pretty small changes. The self damage is only 25 more, so it's not going to be enormous of a difference. The shield being dispellable, I mean, there's not that many heroes that will dispel certain effects, so that's not going to hurt him too badly. The Borrowed Time not being doomed, actually, I feel like is a pretty decent nerf. I mean, it's not too often that he'll get doomed in fights over the carries, because he's normally played as a support. But if either way, Doom is a prevalent hero now, I'd say, in the meta, and so that could affect him a decent amount. The 1 armor reduction, of course, early games, pretty much where that really only plays a role. But yeah, I think it's a good start, and we'll see where he goes from here. I never thought. I mean, I don't think he's broken by any means. I never thought he was. So I think this is just a good direction.
Yeah, and I mean, I think after that, some of the changes I thought were like really awesome, that I really appreciate, of course, were the Elder Titan damage on the Ancestral Spirit nerf, which, I mean, I think was clearly maybe a little bit too high. And then also the fact that OD actually wound up getting hit in a lot of different ways. I mean, I think if you actually look at the things that happened to him specifically, it's not too bad. But the fact that he doesn't get Essence Aura triggered by items is now huge. And also, Tranquil Boots can't be disassembled. So that sort of classic change from the Tranquil Boots into the mech for OD is no longer an option, and he's going to have to go for some more expensive boots.
Well, I was going to say a couple things about the item thing. First of all, yeah, it affects his whole team, not just him using the items, so that, a lot of heroes have items that are activatable, and that's, like you said, not going to trigger it. The 3 damage base damage reduction, that's not really big enough to really play too much of a role on him, and a lot of times the OD will go at least a Mantle of Intelligence or something, so he'll get his base damage, and he'll be able to last his, especially, of course, when he, Astral Imprisons someone and just already goes up a bunch of damage right there. But yeah, I think you mentioned it, the Tranquil Boots, the change on that. You saw ODs build Tranquil Boots a lot, and it was a lot to do with this proc, in addition to obviously not needing mana. But now that the Tranquil Boots, which did you not really break it down too well? Should I just go into it real quick, or?
I didn't, but I will say the other thing I think is big for just the unused
Mhm.
item thing with the OD buildup is Buckler. Like, not being able to just pop Buckler to try and get your Essence Aura.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he, I think, rightly so, lost a lot of that nice, completely free mana.
Exactly. But as far as the Trank Boots go, because this was such, I feel like a pretty darn big change. Well, it was. They dramatically reworked it. So the previous ones used to give the 75 move speed, the 3 armor, and 3 health regen, and you obviously had that heal proc, where you used it to get 250 health over 20 seconds while in combat, the 60-second cooldown, yada yada. And when they were broken, it would be only 25 move speed, and you, of course, had to wait 10 seconds if you didn't have 3 instances of damage. The new ones, though, you gain 85 move speed, so 10 faster, 4 armor, 1 more, and then 10 health regen. So you're up 7 more health regen, but there's no more activatable. So essentially, you just have to slowly over time gain your health back instead of this one proc that's going to just kind of do it over a torse. And now the new broken ones are 60 move speed, so they're still very fast, much faster than before. And still have the 4 armor too, on top of that. So you're just missing the health regen. That's the only part. Like 25 move speed and the regen is taken out. And then that is restored when you haven't attacked or been attacked at all in the last 13 seconds. So you essentially have to put yourself out of combat for 13 seconds to get the health up. I want to say a quick note here. The first game I played Lich, and I got the Trank Boots without even thinking that it got reworked, because I kind of forgot, to be honest. And obviously that was a very normal build for him. And yeah, getting these new Tranquil Boots, it felt right away like just a slap in the face, like a nerf. Like, now if you take any kind of damage, it's going to, or if you an attack. So as a support, denying, you can't deny now for that 13 seconds if you want that health to come back. Those kind of things. But at the same time, I noticed the move speed significantly. And I feel like that's going to play a huge role in a lot of supports still getting this item.
I mean, the thing that actually I like the change because I seem to remember there was this podcast. I'm gonna say maybe episode 5-ish. This really handsome fella.
Ooh.
I think his name is Bede. Anyway, he was saying that these boots were really interesting when they first hit Dota 1, and how he saw the potential for carries to want to pick it up, for mid laners to want to pick it up, for off laners, for supports. It was really a decent general boot.
Yeah.
When it costs so little, and you can take it apart and build it in other things. It's a nerf, but I like it because it's like a focus now. We're rewarding roaming heroes, clearly. It's the ones that are going to be casting spells, are obviously going to be able to maintain the full effect of the boots, not the ones that are slapping the auto attacks in there.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, you still wind up keeping 4 armor. You still keep reasonable movement speed.
Yep.
So you still really get some nice benefits from it, and this again sort of goes into that whole being able to be more aggressive because you're going to be able to move around the map faster. It reminds me of the Striders from Heroes of New Earth. I have no idea what they do now, but it used to be like 800 gold for total for your boots, and you just went like crazy fast until you like got near enemy heroes or got into combat, and it sort of has that same feel to me, except it actually has some decent stats built into it.
Yeah, I mean, Boots of Travel are 100 move speed, and so this is only 15 less without the being broken. I mean, that's really close. That's so fast, and you get the armor and the health regen when they're not broken. So yeah, very valuable. And I agree. I think it is more of a focus, and it's going to essentially make it not really worth carries getting anymore for that slot lane. But that's fine. Because they'll still be able to get plenty of regen. It's just going to have to change the way they may not even upgrade their boots right away now. Maybe they'll go for other items instead. I mean, the original reason, you saw like Naga Sirens and I don't know why, but that's like the only hero in my head that's a carry that gets Tranquil Boots on the side lane. I know it's not true. Phantom Lancers, etc., those kind of heroes, they will now most likely not be picking that up because it will get broken pretty easily, let's be honest. But It's not really necessary anymore. So yeah, in a way, I do like it actually a good amount. It's just different, like I was saying to you earlier. It's more of just how it's interpreted, and right, it's going to increase that roaming, which hey, aggro meta 2.0 gonna happen here.
The one thing that does sort of hurt is like your heroes you might want to get on, like maybe even like Lycan if you're gonna run in the jungle, or Axe. Obviously these heroes aren't super prevalent, but they really liked having the tranquil boots be able to pop and heal and try and stay relevant and be able to gank with them. They sort of tried to get away from that with having the creeps knock off the effect, but I mean now obviously if you're attacking or being attacked it doesn't work. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects some of those junglers. Obviously they did make the jungle a little bit easier for especially for melee heroes. For instance, the Mud Golem having the armor reduced, the Hellbear Smasher having its total health reduced, so it did get some help in that department. But I'm curious to see how jungling changes, not only in the pro scene, but then in the pub scene for those kind of heroes.
Exactly. I'm definitely interested as well. I believe I've seen a lot of players just testing the waters with heroes like Lycan again, just kind of getting a feel for how they work out. Because he actually did receive some buffs himself. But yeah, we'll see all around how they end up playing it out. I feel like that's a lot of the big ones we wanted to go over. Do we want to move now on to the next section?
I would say the other two big ones as far as hero nerfs that are super meta prevalent heroes are Io and Timbersaw. Io no longer stuns with Tether. Huge. Absolutely huge. The number of times that you see people accidentally blink into Tether and get stunned is like, I feel almost reason enough that you'd want to be like, well, maybe we should do something about this. You get the crazy move slow to try and take the place of that, so you still are going to be able to hold people in place, but you're no longer going to be able to cancel TPs, cancel spell casts, cancel channels with the Tether. And for Timbersaw, increasing the mana cost for Chakram level 1, huge, because that hero does way too much damage, level 6. I guess now it costs him a little bit more now. But that level 5 to 6 transition for him is just so much damage right off the bat.
Oh yeah, his burst potential is not matched by many heroes, if any. It's insane because of his low cooldowns, obviously, and the way if he can just get some arcane boots or some bottle or something, he'll be able to pretty much kill any hero by himself one-on-one, and escape too to boot with his Timber Chain. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. The IO, I mean, I've already seen that in a couple games we played, how it's already been just a nuisance how it's been changed. I mean, yeah, it's essentially like stunning them, but it's not at all the same thing. And like you said, it's not going to interrupt those TPs, it's not going to interrupt any channels. Heroes that have Blink or have other abilities can now activate them while they're tethered. It's really just not nearly as effective. And I remember just racking my brain for a while. I was trying to think, I'm like, well, how are they going to nerf IO? Because the way they could lower stats and stuff, but it's not really going to change how effective he is. He's still really going to be a great hero. Well, this is how they decided to do it, and I think it was a very intelligent way. We'll have to see, obviously, now. I don't see that it's enough to push him out of the game or anything, but I feel like it definitely may influence teams to want to go him.
Yeah, and I think the other neat thing about it, too, is that, there are some heroes. We actually haven't seen a lot of Chaos Knight IO as much as we used to. Like, they used to be, like, the only thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. Because you could reality rift somebody when you were tethered, and then they would just get stunned, and there's nothing they can do about it. And then you just lob your Chaos Bolt in there, and then they're dead. And great, fun game, everybody. Almost sort of like similarly with Spirit Breaker, how you can now interrupt his ultimate, so he can't just, this is going to happen, good luck. There's actually some way to sort of stop it, because with the increase in the charge speed, it's so hard, even if you see it coming, to be able to target Spirit Breaker, stop his charge, stop him from being able to get off another strike. Now, you at least can stop the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, you still gotta have some pretty good reactions, but it's still going to be, yeah, right, it's workable here. And Greater Bash no longer working while doomed. Once again, Doombringer just getting buffed all over the place. I mean, they're just like, hey, we want you to play this hero as much as possible, so we're gonna just make nothing work while you're doomed at all. Just forget it. The whole thing.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, like a lot of these, I feel like it's just nice to have more consistency, too. I mean, to have so many random things that don't work. I mean, there are also some inconsistencies that are introduced in this patch. For instance, level 4 ultimates on certain heroes. But I think it's just nice to sort of have that blanket statement for the most part of, yeah, Doom is just kind of shuts down most all things.
Yeah. I definitely agree, though. I think, well, you said those are two of the biggest ones. Also, the Alchemist nerf. Huge Alchemist nerf to the face. Chemical Rage no longer provides 250, 500, 7... It doesn't give you a health bonus anymore. It used to give up to 750 the last rank. Now, granted, his health regen did increase to try to compensate. It did go up quite a bit now, it went up from 15 to 50 at the first rank, up to 60 to 100 at the last rank. So, yeah, it's a lot more health regen, but health regen compared to flat health, not nearly the same thing. You can get bursted down, and you will get punished severely. So I think that was a huge change to that hero.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how he actually transitions, because I feel like the 50 is like a lot for level 6. I mean, I'm curious to see how many times Alchemist is able to get himself out of some sticky situations, just because he's like able to soak up the last couple hits as he's trying to get away. But I love that, especially because of the hero listed right after Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
I have to imagine you had
yeah.
a little hand party in the pants region with the ancient.
Yeah, but I don't tell people about that, so.
You don't.
Well, I try not to make it a public stream thing.
Well, anyway, Ancient Apparition, man. That ultimate, I feel like, just got such a nice, not buff, but it's there's a reason for it. It's prevalent. There's this great counter to a completely huge, made irrelevant hero.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess so. No, it's interesting, the Ancient Apparition. I mean, he's I don't know that he's honestly going to be picked up still. These changes are not going to be decently good, but right, it's at least going to be more effective. The Ice Blast, 5 seconds shorter. All his cooldowns basically got reduced more or less, and now Chilling Touch is applied to him even if he's not within the area. So he kind of just like gets to go along for the ride, even if he doesn't use it on himself. But they're really trying to make Chilling Touch a thing. Like, I really feel like they're really pushing that ability. They've been lowering the cooldown, reducing mana cost. They're really trying to push it on players like, dude, work with this here. I really think it's going to help you. And we'll see if players finally start signing. But, one of H. Apparition's big weaknesses is he doesn't have any hard CC. So, I mean, yeah, that's not going to stop people from picking him. But, well, he does if you can keep him in the same spot for a few seconds. But still, I don't know how much this is going to help him. I feel like the Chilling Touch changes are making you want to keep him as a support and not a middle hero that he sometimes was used as before. But it might be interesting enough, especially with the roaming perhaps, getting that Chilling Touch on people for the ganks, getting that real easy burst damage in. Who knows? It might be something.
And he just builds a Trank Boost, and he's just between all the lanes.
Dang.
Just freezing
The
everybody.
fastest apparition ever. They should be fast anyways, right? Because they're like floating and shit. Like I feel like
give him unit and tree walking too, because you got to make it legit.
Was he Broodmother all of a sudden? Ooh.
Ooh, I see what you did there. We might as well talk about two heroes that really had some fantastic changes. The thing that I thought was actually really interesting about the Slark one is that people seem to perceive it as a nerf, and that no compute in my brain. The change to Slark is that now his ultimate cooldown is dramatically higher. It's now 60 seconds, 65 seconds, as I scroll around.
Dramatically longer, yes.
65 seconds. The duration was decreased from 5.5 to 4. Alright, sure, by numbers, nerf. But Shadow Dance can no longer be revealed by True Sight. Slark gets to run around and literally do whatever he wants for 4 seconds, unless you use area effect abilities, throw up the kinetic field, he is silly and runs right by somebody that's getting storm bolted. Slark, I feel like now isn't obligated to get a BKB. He now has something where he can actually sort of move around.
His ulti finally has purpose late game. The thing is, it really, with that short cooldown and the duration, early game it was amazing. And this is definitely a nerf to his early game. I'm not going to sit here and argue that. But it really now, like I was kind of saying, it kind of gives him purpose again with that ultimate. In team fights, people are going to have detection, whether it's sentries, whether it's dust, whether it's a gem. If you're in any kind of good situation, or against good teams, I should say, they're going to have something for you. So now that it gives that 4 seconds of, you get to do whatever you want. If you want to run, you get to run. If you want to wail on someone, they're not going to stop you. So, I mean, it's really wonderful, I think, for him. And I agree with you completely. Definitely a buff for him. And we will definitely, I think this might even pull him back into the meta.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, that I really like about it is, like you were saying, you can sort of decide what you want to do with your 4 seconds. You're going to be enjoying the health regeneration from the Shadow Dance. You're also going to have time to just pick away at people to start getting the Essence Shift working in your favor. You now get a couple of attacks in to be able to sort of start that stat shift. So by the time you are actually finally targetable, you're sitting in a better situation than you would be otherwise, because, yeah, like you said, especially now that we in this patch have a 5% increased movement speed slow added to dust, the fact that he's truly invisible is pretty big. And again, I like you were saying, absolutely, I think this is a buff, and it makes him interesting. The other thing too, I mean, just, you don't have to get BKB, but if you do, now you have 4 seconds of complete invulnerability, then 10 seconds of the magic immunity. You get to spend so much time within an innate advantage with that skill and item combination, and I'm just totally ready to see Slarks run around and pwn people's faces.
Well, you can't see him, actually.
Yeah,
but you said 4 seconds of invulnerability. That's not quite accurate. It's 4 seconds of invisibility. I mean, you can use AoEs, and people have plenty of them, like Elder Titan, anyone. A lot of people have AoEs, but still, yeah. And it's actually very obvious where he is, because he's this big black cloud going around. But still, yeah, exactly. It's basically like having a free will to do what you want. I know, so witty. But yeah, the other hero I think you were going to allude to was Broodmother, if I'm not mistaken. And these heroes both, by the way, are now not in Captain's mode. It says in the note for now, I believe it's going to they'll probably come back relatively soon, because these changes aren't they're not like the Medusa Ultimate rework. This is definitely more something you can track and keep monitoring. But the Broodmother, definitely some awesome buffs to her. The Spin Web, so basically this spell just got buffs up the wazoo. The AoE increased by 250. The cast range increased by 400 up to 1,000 now. Cast point got nerfed by 0.2 seconds, but no big deal. It no longer destroys trees. Very interesting about that. And the reason that's not bad now is because Broodmother now has completely unobstructed movement when under the web, so it can walk over cliffs, trees, etc. And well, they did remove the buffer time when you leave the spin web, so there is a little bit of a nerf there, of course, because now when she leaves it, she can't just somehow sneak away for that little bit. But since the AoE is bigger, I mean, that kind of compensates anyways.
Yeah, I mean, this means you can pretty much now cover a lane with 2 webs. You don't necessarily have to throw all of your points into it if you don't want to. Right. You can keep it at low points. And this, of course, means that you're going to be able to do a lot of cute stuff around cliffs especially. It's going to be interesting to see how this affects her. Of course, this is also on the back of the fact that Dust now slows a little bit more. So in that regard, maybe she kind of needs this if she's supposed to stay relevant. And of course, the other thing too is the thing that sort of caused Broodmother to fade out wasn't necessarily that it was so hard for her to survive in the offlane, is that she was able to give up so much if you were able to kill her spiderlings. And that's still going to be a big thing that Broodmothers are going to have to stay worried about. So I definitely like the buffs. It's neat. It's like, it feels like a character buff. Like, these are things that you would expect spiders to be able to do anyhow. And it's just kind of neat to have that buff that helps the hero dramatically in a real meaningful way, and then also sort of play into what the hero is.
I mean, you've heard the song Itsy Bitsy Spider, so clearly he went up to the water spout, and similar thing about cliffs and trees. I feel like same exact correlation. But speaking of cute things with that, something I've already seen happen in games and not even pro games is they get up to the 4 webs and they put, on this offlane of course, they get their 2 in the lane like you're saying, but then they put 1 on that cliff leading right to the rune. And now they can help their team get rune control that easily. She can just literally run across her webs and get over to the rune in a matter of seconds. So it's just that's already such a big deal in my opinion, because rune control, like we were saying before, is going to be a harder thing to have now. So, and more important. So yeah, I think that's going to be already just a nice ability right there.
And I mean, think about what you're going to be able to do at Roshan. Think about the potential for you to walk from Dire Ancients to the Radiant jungle, have a straighter path across from there. I mean, there's just really a lot of neat stuff that I think people are going to be able to do. And of course, it's neat to also have this sort of like skill-based thing. Like, it's going to be the people that are looking to abuse the fact that you can walk over trees and walk over cliffs that are really going to make this hero stand out, and I'm definitely excited about it.
So those are our two other little neat things. And once again, they're not in Captain's Mode, so sorry you won't be seeing them played in the immediate future in tournaments. Oh, you know what was really cool that I wanted to just say from the start? This is the first big patch that hit Dota 2 before Dota on Warcraft 3. So it's happening. Dota 2's taking over.
Did it hit Dota 1?
Not yet, as far as I know. It could have now.
Because from what I've heard through the old grapevine, the interesting thing about this patch is it actually blatantly destroys part of what you're able to do in the Warcraft 3 engine, in the way that Bloodseeker's new Thirst allows him to go beyond maximum movement speed. And from what I hear, this is something that's not possible in Dota 1.
It's not. You're absolutely right.
So this pretty much means that that's either the last patch for Dota 1 that's already seen its last one, or that they're going to have to do that's just going to be like, well, sorry guys, Bloodseeker sucks for you because Dota 2 is the way to go.
Join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually really interesting to note, and that you haven't really seen much of in other games like this, like in StarCraft 1. How I mean, they didn't do anything devastatingly big like that, I don't think. Well, then again, this actually is not very similar in that way, because StarCraft 2 and StarCraft 1 are very separate things. But still, no, definitely very interesting note you bring up. And as far as I know, it hasn't hit Dota 1. So, yeah, we'll have to see how that does get implemented. But that's just saying, hey, we realize Dota 2 is the way to go, and that's really, I guess it's just reassuring. Although I was not concerned in the first place, but oh no, is Dota 2 gonna go away? No, I think.
Newsflash: Ice Frog goes back to War 3. What?
Screw you guys! Blizzard's paying me more.
Yeah.
Damn it.
While we're on the subject of Bloodseeker, though, I mean,
I guess we should talk about
this guy. Base movement speed reduced. Thirst is now global. Fact, and I will say that this is already the greatest source of frustration for me playing in pub games.
Yep.
The fact that people don't realize it yet, or it hasn't stuck in. The Thirst HP threshold it's just 50%. If you're under 50, you're screwed. And it stacks up per hero. It has a reduced amount per stack, but he is now allowed to violate the maximum movement speed that had been thrown down before. Bloodseeker can just run around the map like a race car, leaving his little...
Yeah, you talk about race car doom.
Fire.
Wait for Bloodseeker.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then he also gets vision of the hero's model, but not vision around them. So a nice little way to balance that out.
I was going to say, it makes sense now it's global, that you can't just see everyone on the whole map like Zeus ult permanently. We don't need that in the game.
Yeah. And he trades damage for the armor that he actually got last patch. So, that's whatever. I'm fine with that. The thing I think is kind of neat about this is it almost feels like the inverse of Trinket Protector, where you, sacrifice this one hero off in the side lanes to help the solo lanes across the map. I feel like now if I had a Bloodseeker on my team, I'm like, listen, let's just Falco punch this kid in the lane just so that we can get our Bloodseeker to have more movement speed. This means he's going to be able to control the rune better.
Damage.
And the bonus damage as well. He's going to last it easier. He's going to be able to get the bloodbath health easier this way. Have some potential rune control too.
Yep.
So it's kind of neat that you now have your side lanes are going to be able to help your middle by not being anywhere near it.
I honestly am curious if they can finally... This was one of their ways to finally bring him in the game. I mean, we've seen probably a total of 5 times played in this whole year or something. So, just saying it, well, non-trolly games. But I honestly, basically he was used only before for his silence abilities, and that was about it. So I honestly, think this could have been the effect. The global change alone is something that I think is enormous, and that could definitely play a big part. Now, yeah, I don't know. I like him. And do you think he'd still be just a middle hero at this point and not in a different lane?
Probably. I think you would want the level advantage.
Yeah.
Personally, I guess the free farm helps, but I feel
Gank
like
at 6 so well. You know.
it's definitely about getting the early levels, being able to get the speed. Because I mean, now, like I said, the amount of speed you're getting per hero is now lower because it's per hero. So what you get per stack is lower. So if it's just one person that's below 50%, you have half the movement speed. But the trade-off is that if there are 3 people that are below 50% health, you're just all over the place like a nut. And it's kind of neat, too, to just have this hero that's like almost an emergency response. If there's a fight that's breaking out and you're like, oh, crap, I'm not there. Well, I'll start moving there. And, oh, we're actually doing pretty well, and I'm closing in. And, all right, well, now I'm just scooping up double kills. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just a really neat, interesting change. And it definitely, I think, makes you more afraid of Bloodseeker, which is probably deserving because he spent a lot of time not being that scary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he obviously has been one of those years. It's just been neglected over and over. I mean, but who knows? This, like I said, could be the turning point for him. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But any other real big ones before we just kind of start going into them in general?
I'm sad that I almost forgot to mention the Batrider nerfs, which are actually really big.
So thrilled about it. Actually, you're right.
Angels sang. Women cried. There were babies everywhere.
What?
Mana
Okay.
from the heaven pouring down. Base damage reduced significantly.
Oh yeah.
And also vision decreased. Flaming lasso cast range reduced. All to help sort of bring Batrider under control. And this might be enough to do it. The difference in the base damage is like a napalm stack. It's significant.
This is Naga Siren levels of nerfdom here.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it because he's had his chance. Okay,
Is he going support now? Is that what happens after this?
It's just all jungle bat, and there you go.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm very happy about it in general. It's not just because I have a personal vendetta about the hero because I don't like playing him, but just the fact that he's so just every game he has to be picked or banned basically, more than likely or not. And it's just because of how amazing his ult is, how well he could jungle. He can do any lane well. I mean, yeah, you're not gonna put him in the short lane, but he can jungle, he can mid, he can off lane. He's going to be an incredible nuisance throughout the entire game with that lasso, and his mobility late game with that blink and force staff. Being able to essentially pick off one hero of your choice every fight is a bit extreme. So they're trying to really punish him early game here with that base damage. So that way, like you're saying, you really have to focus on these stacks to maybe get last hits against these heroes. And now that he is a ranged hero and that the ranged hero deny is greater, their denied experience, it's going to be that much more brutal in that mid lane if he's against someone else, that he really needs to focus on last hits. Obviously, Flaming Lasso nerf, now only 100 range, that's melee. That's actually, I believe, 10 less than melee, if I'm correct. I believe it's 110 for melee range. So either way, you got to be basically right on top of these fools. And not that it's hard, of course. You blink, you force staff, you'll get there.
Close.
But it does give that little bit of breathing room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But those I think are the big ones. I mean, if we're moving into things that aren't necessarily meta prevalent or like game breaking, I think a good one to start off on is the fact that Husker, it's a nerf bat is like, you got like the nerf truck run over him. It was kind of nice. He's still pretty fearsome, but agility reduced from 20 plus 2.4 to 15 plus 1.4. Can no longer use Ghost Scepter and chuck the Burning Spears manually, and Berserker's Blood is now disabled by Doom, and the people rejoiced.
Yeah, obviously that Ghost Scepter thing was just directed at him entirely. I mean, it felt so dumb too when you were doing it. Like you were like, really, why is this a thing? Like, why can I ulti in Ghost Scepter and kill everyone on their team? Like, that doesn't feel right to me. They're trying to make him more of a balanced hero, and that's so hard to do with a hero like Huskar, because half of his damage depends on him going to half health. And I mean, at that point, what hero really is looking to sacrifice that much? So I guess they were trying to find ways around it, but I don't know if he's going to be. People just got to figure something new out with him. Obviously, the armlet's going to be his big bread and butter still. He's going to love to get that every game, but and with that armlet toggle nerf that happened recently, that hurt him as well. So poor Huskar has been run over multiple times by the truck, but
I'm cool with it though.
yeah, me too. I never liked the hero. Okay, that's rude to say. We should be more unbiased, but I hated it.
The agility thing is actually really huge too. I mean, you're figuring 5 off the bat. That's damage. That's armor.
Yep.
Or attack speed and armor. That's just fancy. The attack speed. Oh, I hate being happy that he got put in his place a little bit, but it's so good. It's so good. What did you enjoy about the patch, my friend?
What didn't I enjoy?
Question.
I enjoyed the Invoker buff. I definitely did that.
That's a cute one.
The EMP restores him for 50% of the mana it drains from heroes, excluding illusions. And Invoke max spells, instead of being 1, 2, 2, 2, is now just 2. So you get 2 spells right away. And, well, not right at level 1, but, when you get to get Invoke. And it's so amazing. Basically, essentially at level 3, you can have 2 spells. And that, you might not have the mana necessarily, but this opens up some possibilities, in my opinion, for early game Invoker. Now, Bottle might be something they go. Bottle was never really, it kind of was on the table, but people generally just like phase boots instead or something else. But the Bottle now may be an option to really burn through your spells early game with the 2 spells. And I don't know. I think this is going to make him immensely stronger, just in general. He'll get off to that early start a lot better. He can handle his own middle even that much better. Of course, he's always had a great time middle lane because he could harass, basically not get punished for it. But now that with the extra spells and the EMP giving you mana back, which obviously Invoker's main crutch is mana in the middle of the game, I think this all around is going to make him a viable hero.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think is best about it is you're not... You can actually contribute now in the earlier stages of the game.
Yeah.
You don't just sit on Cold Snap. Like, it really helps both builds for Invoker because now you can hold your Cold Snap and you can hold Sunstrike and you can try and help the other lane that way. Or you can even try to look to use your EMP and your Tornado combo really early. Or, like you said, you can look to, or you can use the Cold Snap and anything else. I mean, it's just nice to not be so locked into, I have to have Cold Snap because I have to worry about winning the lane myself. And it's great too, I think too, just to have buffs to these middle heroes too when the middle lane, because of how it was affected by Bottle and Bottle Crow and day nighttime cycles, I feel like it's so much more about the initial one-on-one matchup than it's been in the past. There are fewer ways to sort of make up for the differences between heroes. Oh, yeah, I'm getting beat, but whatever. I can sit back here and spam spells to pick up some creeps, and I'll still get my levels the way, like Magnus would always do. It's nice that you now have changes these heroes where it's like, yeah, well, now I'm actually going to be really nice because I'm going to be able to, put my opponent away a little bit earlier now that I have 2 spells at my disposal, and that's going to help me get my rune control and help me dominate the lane.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see some shifts around in that as well. I think roaming will make a presence again just to help out those heroes that maybe need it more than the others. Some other nice changes here. The Darkseer nerf. I think it's funny. Someone made a post on Reddit. His vacuum cooldown increased by 24 to 28, so he's 4 more seconds. But apparently the last 4 patches, Darkseer's, the only thing that's changed with him, his vacuum keeps going up a couple seconds every patch. It's just they're just never happy with this spell. They never will be either.
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a good hero. It's like, if you affect some of the other stuff, you, I think, risk breaking them, and that's one thing you can do. I mean, you see it on Lifestealer as well. Alright, well, let's increase the rage cooldown. I mean, we gotta do something. Cast point on Infest and Open Wounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of nice, I guess. I mean, is that a huge window that, all of a sudden he's not gonna be as useful? No, but it's nice that you can just sort of do these small things. You're like, yeah, we just need to do something, and I think the cooldown of those kind of spells are definitely a good place to start. The one that I actually really liked too, I think as I'm actually looking nearby this hero in the list of patch notes, the Juggernaut Healing
Yep.
Ward can now move.
Real
It's
fast.
like it rolls around. It's him and Bloodseeker are just like they figured it out this patch. They're just like going hard all the way. And then also the sort of thing that we saw in the Navi versus Alliance game where
Yeah.
people were just sceptering off the Juggernaut ultimate, got fixed a little bit. So the Omni Slash will not actually hit people that are ethereal, but he'll do a little dance around them and wait for the ethereal to wear off or get close to a target that will actually take the damage.
Yeah, and the scepter cooldown reduced to 70 at all ranks if you get that scepter built. So obviously, and I think I pointed this out when we were discussing that best of 3, that he went Oghanims, let's all go scepters. So it was maybe like troublesome for some juggernauts before to be like, well, do I really want to go Oghanims? Because aren't they just going to counter it out? Now they can't counter it out, really. I mean, yeah, they'll still be immune to the damage, but at least, like you said, it won't stop him from bouncing around. So that Oghanim's definitely still a worthwhile pickup, and now even that much better of a pickup because now it's 70-second cooldown. That's really significant. That's quite a bit of time off. So I like it. Also, another actually I think really cool change: fix not being able to use items during Omni Slash. I like to say it's fixed first of all, like it's been a problem that they've known about or something that like this has happened so long. I'm like, how is this a fix? But yeah, he can now use anything. So you can use a scroll of teleportation while you're ultimating. Oh yeah. So as if there weren't enough ways for him to escape. Like actually, it was just one before, but he would just do. Okay, so it was just one, but he would Blade Flurry and then spin. Right? It's like bubble hearthing and WoW, no big deal. But now he can even ulti and teleport away. He can ulti and then blink dagger to a different location. He can ulti and Dagon for I don't know what he wants to do, but the point is, he could E-blade someone and make them invincible to his ultimate. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
He can ulti and then kill himself with a bloodstone.
Oh, he can ulti and then refresher orb and ulti again is what he can. But it's so interesting, and I really like that. We'll see if any other options are opened up from that.
Yeah, I think a hero change that is going to be about opening up some options is the Lich. The fact that Sacrifice is now pretty different. It no longer denies enemy XP. It now converts a creep that you sacrifice into experience in an AoE and go, because that's
Well,
you.
There's a reason I played in my first game. I just wanted to see that difference. It definitely was one. Now, the sacrifice cooldown was increased early game by a few seconds, and the mana gain was increased to try to compensate. But, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I did, like I said, I used it and I denied a ground creep right away and was just trying to see how much it would help out. And within the first couple, you're already giving yourself more or less about a third of a level. And, obviously you're going to continue to do it. It's just trying to, I guess, bring him back in a game that's really kept him out for so long. They obviously, the buff before this, getting his Chain Frost up to 11 bounces at all time. And I don't know. I think this is very interesting. Now, granted, like you said, it's in an area, so it's not just your team. If anyone's near it when you deny it, they're going to get some experience from it. But still, it's obviously, if you're good enough, you'll just use it when it's on its way into the lane. Not going to hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you don't get it on your carry, if you're in like a tri-lane situation, you're going to get it on the other support. And I really like this because, of course, that's something that we've seen classically is like really low levels on a lot of heroes because of the tri-lane setup. And now there's just this ability to try and work around that. You can pick up the Lich to give yourself some more experience. I think it's also good because there are those heroes that are like super experience dependent. They need a certain like key number of levels to really start becoming prevalent, and I think it's really nice that now this hero does that. You can sort of look at these heroes that have before been like, it just takes too long to get them going, we don't want to do that, we need too many different spells, we need too many ranks in a certain spell. Now it's like, well, that's still true, but hey, now we have this option in the Lich, and he's of course great to run with an important hero that's going to be getting up high levels, and that he can help defend them with the frost shield. So I think that's a really interesting change, and I'm really curious to see what kind of combinations we see coming out of that, and what heroes the pros decide. You know what, these are heroes we really want to try and get some extra experience on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to. All those will have to come down the wire. We've done our predicting, but yeah, I think I'd like to start getting into some more. I broke it down to tier 1 and tier 2 for myself. And actually, then I have tier who cares, but someone cares, honestly. Well, probably, but either way, I feel like we should probably start my tier 1. And I'm not going to go into all of these because obviously, like I said, there's a million. But some of the ones I was really interested about. So Chen getting the Hand of God cooldown increased by 20 seconds as first rank in 10 seconds. So obviously noticing that Chen and Test of Faith is teleport is now dispellable. That's not as much a big a deal. But once again, this kind of plays into them noticing what the current meta has been like and how to kind of affect it. Also, I just realized how much they've buffed Doom this match. I didn't realize it before. All these things that are dispellable, Doom will now dispel because of how they reworked Doom. And let me just read that real quick. So the cooldown reduced by 10 seconds. Now removes positive buffs on the target before applying the debuff. And his Aghanim AoE requirement was increased. I don't know why they love Doom so much, but dear God, you're welcome, BDLM. That's all I have to say. You're welcome.
LOL Chemical Rage.
Oh my!
I mean, there's some nasty stuff.
I don't even know. Why wouldn't you pick him every game?
I don't know. Jay. I don't know. I've always liked him, but yeah, he's still getting a little bit more help here and there, and of course he also has the cooldown reduced on Doom a little bit further, and he's just a neat hero, I think, too, because you can play him in a couple different ways. You can try to get the mech, you can go for the Aura bot, you can just sort of throw him in the jungle and hope to get him to come out later just swinging his massive sword and doing a ton of damage. But it's sort of like a side note, cool thing too, while it's right there in the patch notes, Disruptor. This hero is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing him get picked up, because I do think that some of these changes are potentially enough to bring him into the game. Kinetic Field AoE increased from 300 to 325. Glimpse cooldown is reduced except for at rank 1. Static Storm AoE is increased from 375 to 450, and Static Storm max damage increased. The cool thing about all of this, too, is to sort of piggyback on the Doom, is the fact that the Aghanim Scepter upgrade that Disruptor now has silences items and lasts 2 extra seconds.
Oh my god.
The biggest thing about this for me is that now Disruptor can deal with BKBs in a way that he wasn't able to do before, where people could just walk away. They just walk away. Walk through the kinetic field, didn't matter. They just walked away. And now he can actually do something to stop that. And honestly, we've kind of always talked about heroes being like, oh, well, they're supports, so they're never going to get this much money, so it doesn't really matter. Disruptor's a hero that has, on rare occasion, been tried out in that middle lane, and I'm curious to see if we get to see him a little bit more now put into that role, because he's able to get such a huge game-changing Aghanim Scepter upgrade. If you get multiple people in there, they can't pop mech, they can't pop BKBs. That's just crazy, man.
Well, as game-changing as Omni's Aghanims?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, no, it honestly is cool, but he wouldn't be... I mean, I don't necessarily believe that he has to go middle. I mean, yeah, it would obviously help, because he could go, like, Yules into Aghanims, or he could do something and really make people get punished against him, but... I've seen supports like Witch Doctor get that Aghanims up instead of mech or something else, and just go rush it for his team, and that's been more beneficial than getting those normal support items like Force Staff and mech. But yeah, either way, I think this may assist him. Now, there were those other Aghanims changes that we thought, oh, maybe they'll help out, and they really just didn't get used as much. Like Doom's Aghanim hasn't really been used at all, and I mean, there's just some that just really haven't been touched. But this one actually has a chance. And speaking of gosh darn Aghanim Scepter upgrades, Enigma.
No, that wasn't where I thought it was going.
Adds Midnight Pulse damage to your black hole, and it stacks with Midnight Pulse. So, Which, by the way, the DPS was increased by 1% on Midnight Pulse. So, they really want this spell to be a factor for Enigma.
The thing about the second part is like, okay, that's cool. But, I mean, realistically, the number of times that Enigma
No.
blinks in and then lays out his nice little midnight pulse carpet and then
Stay here, guys! Hold on a second.
let's light up the runway. Stand here, and then it is nice though that he actually does get that nice damage increase because I mean the black hole does damage on its own already. So the fact that you're now adding on to this percent-based damage is crazy. And as we've mentioned before in the past, you know, the nice thing about Aghanim Scepter is that for most heroes, it's a really nice build-up. And this is going to mean more mana. It's going to mean more health for Enigma, so that he has some more survivability. And I mean, on that note, do you have anything else to touch on with Enigma?
Yeah, I just also wanted to say I feel like it's also good for him because after you get Blink, Mech, and BKB, he kind of doesn't really need anything else. He's kind of already like, well, I guess I could get a sheep, or whatever. But Aghanim is like a beautiful fourth item for him. Like, it's going to really give him something else that he'll want to build, and it will help his team, which scales throughout the game. That's all. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, to piggyback on that, a big change to an item that I think is actually going to be very interesting to watch as well is Lincoln Sphere that can now be cast on an allied hero to transfer the buff. Wow, crazy WTF mode. I think a hero like Enigma could totally take advantage of that just because of like the health regeneration, the mana regeneration. It's good general stats. It's a tankiness for when you need to get in there and drop the ultimate. If, especially in the early game, like if you're able to get a Lincoln Sphere out early, okay, there are going to be small engagements. We might not have 5-on-5s. If there's one person outside of it, they're only going to have one spell to cast on me anyway. I mean, I think this is an interesting item choice so that you maybe, if there's only one or two spells, you don't feel compelled to go BKB. Yeah. And you also have this utility outside of just trying to defend yourself. Now you can throw it on a carry. And that's going to be true for a lot of heroes. I think it's going to be neat to see which ones say, hey, let me go Lincoln Sphere because it's great general stats, it's regeneration, and I now have something else that can contribute to the fight.
Yeah, I really want to see how that kind of gets tossed around now. It just makes it a more valuable item in general. Even if, like, you're not necessarily always going to, like, you know, because in the old days, when I say old days, it was like, what, 2 days ago, when you had a Lincoln Sphere, people were like, oh, he's got Lincolns, guys, don't cast any of your big things on him. And you kind of just left that hero alone, at least in the start of fights. Now, you know, anyone on your team essentially could get it with a quick enough reflex, and you know, or pre-fight starting, and then you're like, okay, I want my carry to have a Lincoln proc on him. Well, all right, support. You build a Lincoln Sphere, and you buff him up essentially for this fight. I mean, yeah, it's not the most effective thing. It's essentially just one little charge of a spell, but still, the fact is, it can be used on any hero from any hero, and 700 cast range is also pretty long. Pretty far, so that's a pretty good shout out to help out your teammates.
Yeah, and I think the other neat thing is just when you look at what supports will typically go when they wind up getting too much money. You know, I've always liked citing the Heaven's Halberd, and I think it's like a neat item to see picked up on supports who have money for a change. This is like a nice sort of spell version of that, and it works in the same sort of capacity of, you know, it's more defensive, obviously, because like, okay, well, we need to defend this person. I'll throw the shield on them. But it's nice to sort of have this extra nice little utility item that is also something that's going to require like some skill to use. You're going to have to know when to try and cast it. And obviously, if you put it on somebody too early while you're pushing a tower, Bounty Hunter goes, oh, all right, well, track. You're done with Lincoln Sphere now. Okay, we can go now, guys. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of awesome, crazy pro bids we get out of these item changes.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that. Also, though, a good change, I think that's very meta prevalent, the Shadowblade nerf. The Shadow Walk cooldown increased from 18 to 28 seconds. So, I mean, it was really quick before. 18 seconds was nothing, you know, it was up before you knew it. But now 10 extra seconds, that's essentially 50% increase on that cooldown. So obviously made it prevalent because so many heroes like to go Shadowblade, and it's just like you think of those heroes that normally get it, like the Alchemist, and how he's already been nerfed. Now add to this a 28-second cooldown on his main item that he gets. Yeah, that's going to hurt him quite a bit. Kind of like the Morphling getting hit all at once. these things kind of happen. So you have to kind of factor that in as well.
Yeah, and I mean Nature's Prophet, obviously another big hero that goes for that. I mean, it's just I like that you don't have this potential to be able to sneak in somewhere, participate, and do something, and then if things don't go right, then I also have this escape. I mean, this a 28-second window. That's a long fight if you're supposed to get in and out of that one. So it's nice that it really is sort of about that one trick. Like, all right, it's the opening damage, and there you go. Or it's just the escape. You know.
Yeah, right. It's more of a choice at this point.
Other cool sort of item change. I guess it's hero changes, but there happen to be a couple of people that can now
Blink.
purchase
Blinky,
a nice
blinky.
little shiny blink dagger.
Yep.
Pudge and Vengeful Spirit can now purchase blink daggers, and that's pretty cool. You if you get swapped or you get hooked into somewhere you can't walk out of, you get some walking for 5 seconds. But I actually watched some of Purge's thoughts on the patch, and he was saying, like, I'm wondering, there are going to be a lot of ways to abuse this with like Naga Siren Sleep. There are going to be ways to hold people for longer than 5 seconds, and I'm also curious to see like how that actually
Ooh,
works.
that's a good point that I didn't think about. Because yeah, it's not just walking; it's free pathing. So essentially, if you're up a cliff,
Oh, yeah.
you can come down the cliff. That kind of thing. But yeah, I never really. I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard. You have to be pretty darn coordinated, which I'm not saying these pro teams aren't, because believe me, I know they are. But yeah, like into an Elder Titan Stomp or a Naga ult, like you're saying. But still, it seems like a lot of effort just to put someone up a cliff.
Well, I mean, Yules, or I mean, there are a lot of different ways, especially because these two heroes are heroes that have stuns or have ways to hold people in place as well. So they might already be dealing with less than 5 seconds.
yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. I Pudge, I can definitely see it happening. Definitely. Vengeful, probably not. I mean, I'll see. It definitely could be a way to initiate for her. But I think her Oghanims is really a great way for her to go. She likes to get that more if she can get an item. But Pudge, I could absolutely see a blink being useful, getting yourself up somewhere, and then, I don't know, taking full advantage of people like he always does anyways. And that's just kind of what he likes to do. But
Yeah.
just obviously mobility and positioning for Pudge is key. So yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Did you have any
Elder
other?
Titan nerf.
Yeah, we did mention that one.
Yeah, it wasn't to the ground, but at least a little bit less damage for him. But that wasn't obviously enough, and it's kind of similar with Abaddon. Like, he's just got in the game. Let's just ride it out, see what happens. He's not devastatingly OP. He's very strong. Don't get me wrong. He's very strong, and he still will be used a lot. But I think that was a good way to kind of tweak him at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like big hero changes too, I think maybe the last one to maybe mention. I mean, I guess there are actually a lot of big hero changes, but Venomancer was one that like really stood out to me. I mean, this hero got a lot of help this patch, and I really like it. They rebalanced the Venomous Gale so it does 0 damage on the damage over time component for level 1, but Poison Sting duration increases. The overall damage on the Venomous Gale level 4 has been increased. Plague Wards now have 50% of the Poison Sting effect to the level. Holy crap. And also, like, buffs that I didn't even realize that didn't work. For instance, Poison Nova not hitting people in fog that were invisible. I feel like if you're just spewing poison everywhere, the trees don't necessarily save you. That's a personal thought of mine, though. Maybe... Well, I guess now Ice Frog agrees, but the thing I liked most about the Venomancer thing is it reminds me of, like, old Slither in Heroes of Newerth. Like, I love that little extra component that they wound up adding to Han, and to get to see it on Venomancer now in Dota, I think it's amazing. It's really nice, not only because of him just, I think, needing a little bit of help to be meta prevalent, but now there's also more of a micro aspect to it. You could always micro the wards, but I think it's really important to, once you get a point in ward and a point in Poison Sting, you throw a couple down, you throw them in a control group, and you hotkey it, so that you can keep the slow going where you need it to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, and don't you always get pissed when you have a couple wards up and the person has like 10 health because of your ultimate, but you can't finish him off for some reason? Now you put that little extra poison sting damage on there. Who knows? It might be enough to push him over the brink. Get as many people died up as possible. Definitely, I think a really nice thing. And this may. I actually have already seen Vitamancer get picked up in a couple pro games. So he's already kind of starting to weave his way back in. He's always been great for pushing metas, pushing teams, and now that especially Poison Nova can hit invisible units and this kind of thing, I definitely like to see him used more in general.
Yeah, I mean, even in just the damage increase he got, I think is just crazy. And he's another good hero. I mean, I think if you can afford the Blinken Sphere, it's a nice pickup for him just to get that mana regeneration, to get that stability, so that you can ensure that you're getting off all your abilities, especially now because of the fact that if you survive, that's more poison wards, that's more potential people affected by poison sting. And now it's not just like QER, okay, you can kill me, I'm good, hands off the keyboard, it's okay, it's okay. Now you have
I've done it all. I've seen it all. I'm finished.
There's actually, I think he's a much more prevalent hero, more than just the two-trick pony he was in Gale and Nova.
No, I definitely agree with that. Like you said, there really is a whole ton of changes. I wish I could say them all, but we're already running an hour and a half, so maybe just a few more before we close up shop here. And honestly, you guys, I'd already hope, since you're all professionals by this time, listening to 62 of our episodes, that you would have already gone to the site and you should definitely read over, at least skim over the patch notes and just see what you can find, especially the heroes that you play a lot more. But because we're not going to be able to cover all of them. Let's be honest, probably about 70 of the 100 heroes were touched in this patch at least. So it's going to be, and items and everything else in the world. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. Can I just say Skywrath Mage? Can I just say?
Yeah, you can.
They added an Aghanim's upgrade, reduced Mystic Flare's cooldown from 60, 40, 20, okay, as if 20 seconds wasn't short enough for an ultimate, to 2010 0. Yeah, I read that right, just a 0. So, if you have, about 3,000 mana, I guess you could use it 3 times in a row, but why do you think, okay, what do you think about that?
I like it, actually. I think it's really neat because obviously when you look at the rest of Skywrath Mage's kit, it's just about like the int, right? Like it's just about being able to stack that up. So it's neat that you sort of have this other way to go about it. Is like, well, if you build a Bloodstone, then you can potentially throw out more damage. So it's kind of neat that you just have this sort of, you can go int or you can go regen, and that those both sort of have viable, decent item build-ups, because obviously if you're going for regen, you could even just do stuff like Yule Scepter on top of that, which is also some additional utility. And I mean, it's obviously the smaller buff of the two. He gets a 0.4 int growth increase, which I think is awesome, because whenever I play Skywrath Mage, my 4th point goes into stats because his stuff is just so expensive. It's nice to now have a little bit more to help him in that early game, especially in a support role, especially when he's going to be getting levels slower than if he was played mid.
And then another really interesting one that I wanted to point out, even though it's not meta prevalent, at least right now, Skeleton King. Getting his base intelligence increased by 5. They removed the Mortal Strike active, so he's back to... It was just too complicated, first of all. It was just too... I mean, you can't handle casting more than one spell on that hero. It's just not... It's not in his cards. You know what I mean? I mean,
I gotta say, though, I do like what they did. I mean, were you a fan of the changes?
I was going to say, the Vamp Aura now provides full effectiveness on ranged units. The Reincarnation slow increased to 50%, and the AoE's increased. But obviously the big keynote there, Vamp Aura for ranged heroes. I love it. Absolutely love it. I think this could be, honestly, maybe a reason teams want him in a lineup.
I think the neat part about it, too, is that for the most part, I mean, we did see some like carry Skeleton King games, but I want to say there were also a couple games where he gets picked up as sort of part of that push strat, where the Vamp Aura was a big part of why he was important. And just seeing how these changes affect him, I think it's neat, because I actually really like thinking about him more as this sort of, I am alive, I'm providing this aura, when you kill me, I'm gonna now come up and do a good slow in a decent area, and then I'm gonna go back to providing that. Or like, he's more than just about I'm gonna crit for Jillian, I'm gonna crit for Jillian, I'm gonna crit for Jillian. I
Slap
really
chop.
like that they're pushing it towards his other spells and the aspect of those spells that you might even overlook, especially in the slow from the ultimate. They've been trying to affect that every patch, and I'm glad they are.
No, me too. And I don't know. I think Skelly King Troll Warlord has some potential. I really do. I think the team could use those two in succession and really do some crazy damage with the crits and the bashes. So who knows? We'll have to see. But I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm not trying to get into too many crazy things. I think it's interesting that dodge is stackable now. It is diminishing, but it's still stackable. So you can get PA with a butterfly and have a fun time. You can do well, you can just get 4 butterflies if you want. I mean, hell, whatever you really want to do, you can have a butterfly farm if you want. I don't know if that's what it's called, but
Garden?
feel free. Yeah, that probably sounds better than a farm. I don't know if we're like trying to get milk from them or something. Okay, I'm
It's
not.
a very small farm.
It's
You're
really,
like, you're gonna need a
yeah,
lot of
it's a
space
very,
for a butterfly farm.
it's a lot of wasted space, you might say. I'm not sure why you would go with that instead, but yeah, I think that's just like an interesting random gold bonus reduced by 50. So all those randomers in my all pick, now you feel the wrath.
Oh yeah. Some other changes that I thought were this one I think is actually really interesting, and I'm crazy interested to see how it turns out, especially when you consider Queen of Pain actually had her mana increase on her Shadow Strike for the level 1. It winds up it's static now, so it's cheaper for the higher levels, but level 1 is more expensive, which sort of hurts her ability to be able to so heavily harass melee heroes. But Viper actually gets a cooldown removal from poison attack. Holy crap!
Yep.
That's
Don't
there's
need
some
to level
potential
that
there,
anymore.
man.
Don't need to level that anymore. Just get 1 point and then start putting your points otherwise and get an
Nether
extra
Toxin.
bonus. Yeah, Nether Toxin just boosts that auto attack damage. I think that's huge for him. That not having to invest more points in poison attack right away.
Yeah, I mean, and it's nice because I think Viper's obviously always been good at melee heroes, but because of like that slight nerf to Queen of Pain level 1 and Viper getting this like pretty sizable buff to the poison attack and really freeing up a lot of his skill points, to me he now feels like the hero that just like goes in the middle lane to crush the dreams of melee heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely is a possibility. Yeah, obviously would be very effective against it. So I mean he's already kind of getting used, so it's going to be fine. He'll probably just be more involved if anything. There's just there's so many good changes. How do you even decide which ones you even want to mention?
You don't, because they're just all great. The other ones I think are like particularly interesting though are like Night Stalker's Darkness now reduces vision of heroes, creeps, and wards. So the very first thing to affect wards spell wise, which I think is crazy. The thing about Night Stalker 2 that I think might get overlooked a lot with how the day-night time cycle changes is now you have different window of when he becomes crazy effective, and I feel like you almost sort of flatline his general. He feels a lot more consistent because the nighttime is a lot shorter, and because darkness now has this extra effect. Darkness might not necessarily be this thing that you just are. Is off cooldown. Sorry, gotta keep it nighttime, because if it's not, then there's 6 minutes where I am dramatically less effective. Now it's like, well, heck, guys, let's go do Roshan. I'll pop Darkness so that their wards are less effective. Or, let's go ganking, pop Darkness. We're ready to go in and around the trees, behind towers, and it's going to be harder for them to see us. I think that's actually a really nice buff, and I'm really curious to see if it's able to bring Night Stalker into being more prevalent.
I was gonna say he's right on the brink. I mean, he was used in TI3. I mean, he's a hero that people still value for that very specific snowball, silence, and slow. He's got his very important role, and that won't change about him. But I honestly do think that, especially with Heaven's Halberd and everything, he definitely could be used more. And I think these changes definitely put him right back in the game. The ultimate having more of kind of exactly like you were saying, more of like a specific purpose to use instead of just extending night. Now you're like trying to really focus on them being limited on vision, and I think it's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful thing. There was a couple heroes like Sven and PA. Their spells actually are now dodgeable, so you can what's it called? Disjoint them. That's the word I was looking for, and that's really good to see. Just in general, I feel like when we first read as dodgeable, I honestly thought you could dodge it, and I was about to like flip the table that I was sitting at because I was just not sure how that's even. Well, I guess like that, except literally flip a table. Except I'm not that strong. It's like these little kitty tables. But anyways, that is not the kind of dodgeable they mean. If you're reading it that way, you're not alone. But I think that's really nice. Rubik has Nogginims. So by the way, no longer he steals the Aghanim upgrade of the enemy, if they have one and he doesn't. However, now if he gets Nogginims, it reduces the cooldown, first of all, of his ultimate, from 16 seconds to last rank, just to 5 flat. 5 seconds for his ultimate. And he increases the cast range from 1,000 to 1,400. Think like Codal Wave craziness here, pretty much. And makes all stolen spells be considered have their Aghanim's upgrade. So, yeah, are we going to see Rubik Middle make a return here?
I mean, it sounds like a pretty convincing argument. I mean, especially because you consider some of the, like, Enigma is obviously like a big one here. Because that one is just going to be so devastating to have. I mean, there are really a lot of great increased spells to steal, but like you said, I mean, you're getting the range increased, you're getting the cooldown reduction, which, I mean, 16 seconds sounds short already, but good Rubiks are just going to be able to just pull things from everywhere, and it's not necessarily going to have to be about waiting for that one big spell to come up. You can now feel a little bit freer to, okay, well, I'm going to take Stormbolt because it's here, you know, I'm going to take Brain Sap, just try and burst somebody down. You can be a lot more carefree with,
I don't know. I kind of wanted Rubik's Aghanims to be, you can now hold, like similar to Invoke, hold 2 spells at the same time.
That would be silly.
That would be very silly, though. I'm going to take Ravage and Black Hole and just go from here. No, it actually kind of reminds me of the Invoker Aghanims in a way, like making that cooldown so low on your ultimate that you can just keep spamming spells like you're saying. That's a huge cooldown reduction. Down to 5 seconds really is something impressive. So I don't know. We used to see, especially Dendi, but a lot of heroes like to play that Rubik mid, and I think this might bring him back in the game. And I just have to say he's probably one of the most interesting heroes in the game, purely because you never know what he's going to do in a fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly so much potential for him to be able to turn something around, and I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I don't know, man. We've kind of been going for forever.
Yeah, we have. It's like been like 2 hours almost.
There are a lot of great changes, and I mean, just like scrolling through them on the side, like there's so many more that I want to talk about. But I'm sure that we're probably going to get some games in this week, and we'll get to come up
more. Yeah.
And yeah, what kind of changes actually come up in the pro scene and whatnot. So you guys, please come drop by our YouTube, youtube.com/Dota on Demand. You can go to the Twitter as well. Drop by your thoughts. Which changes that we didn't talk about did you think were super interesting or that you want to talk about some more? Because, you know, I'm definitely open to just like pulling out some viewer notes that they thought were particularly interesting to talk about next time, because there was just so much awesome stuff.
Yeah, exactly, you guys. Like I said earlier in the cast, please go and read the patch notes if you haven't already. At least skim through them. Definitely go out, play tons of games. You know, experience all these new things. See what you like, see what you don't like. Let us know. Have the feedback. Give us some comments. Tweet at us. Facebook message us. And that's all I gotta say. Oh, God, I didn't do shout-outs. Gotta do my quick shout-outs. Sorry. It's the end of the episode. And everyone that posted is gonna be like, where's my shout-out? I didn't do that for no reason.
Too, because
God. So I'm going to be real quick with these guys. But actually, I see a lot of familiar faces here. But I just want to give a quick shout-out here to the Arvin Manahan, to Uramsor4, Scott Balfour, BFF for life. Frick, I got tweeted at and I can't remember who tweeted at me, but I love you, and I promise I love you. You're my favorite tweeter in the world. And
I'd like to thank the Academy and my mom and...
Hold on. No, just hold on. Just seriously 1 second. Literally 1 second. Oh, wait. Riley Brando and Innovations Dota. Both of you are great tweeters, and I really appreciate you coming at us. Whew.
Absolutely. I will second that thanks. Thanks again, guys, for coming by, checking out the episode. As we said earlier, you can check us out on our social media. And until next week, pick Bloodseeker and laugh at how people don't remember that thirst is global. So go out there, have fun doing that. We'll see you guys next time.